Hey, everybody, welcome to the Monday Minutia. What we're going to talk about today, do stats really lie? Especially when it comes to our Atlanta Falcons in history. Let's see and check it out with me. Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing out there? It is Monday, July 10th. Man, we are almost to the halfway point of July. And for football lovers, that is magic because that means it's less than 60 plus days away from starting this football season. And if you're like me, you're starting to get a little anxious. This is that off-season time when everybody's feeling a little, oh man, we don't know what to talk about. We don't know what to. We're almost running out of topics, but I found another one today. It's your Uncle Steve here in Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube. Thank you for joining me here on the channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I am on that place right there. Push down there at the bottom where you get your little likes and your little thumbs up and do that for your Unc. I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone stopping by to see what we have to talk about. Man, speaking of talk, we talked a lot yesterday. Atlanta Falcons talk. A big shout out to my guys, Big Low, Smitty, Alberto, John Harris, and Almani Newsom for helping me talk through yesterday's show. I think I broke a record. I think aside of the draft, I don't think I've ever had a show last that long. But when the topics are going pretty well, that's what's up, man. And I appreciate it. And thanks for all the love. Thanks for everybody in the chat. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. So today, I thought I would kind of switch things up a little bit. We were talking yesterday a lot about certain players. And at one point, we went through the drill of, who were first round picks and does that make them better or whatever. And, after you finish the chat, you go back and you start looking at what people are saying as far as what their thoughts are. And I came across one comment that says the stats don't lie. Well, I was kind of here to rebuff that a little bit because I think in a lot of cases, the stats can lie. Not necessarily true that just because you're the statistical leader in a certain position, that means that you are the best. So what I did was, and I thought I would play a nice little game of let's see if the stats line up. And that's what I did. I kind of rolled out and got the top 3 Atlanta Falcons in each category. And I wanted to see, does it hold true? Do the stats kind of define who is the best? Now, I also know I'm not trying to say favorites because there's a difference between favorites and who's as far as who the favorites are on your team. You can have a favorite that's not even in the top 10. But I'm talking about when it comes to those who's the best player in franchise history type of thing. So that's what I'm doing today. And very briefly, because we do have some other things going on today. If y'all get a chance, 8:30, check out my buddy Smitty Sports Machine. He's going to be on there with my brother Alberto. And also Toddy Jones. They're going to be talking about some things, Atlanta Falcons. So y'all make sure y'all check them out at 8:30 or either one of those platforms, either Smitty Sports Machine, 95 North Sports Talk, or Atlanta Bird Game. Make sure y'all check them out on YouTube. Okay, so here we go. As far as, the topic is concerned, do the stats lie when it comes to our franchise favorites? I think some of these are slightly easy when you start thinking about them, but I did want to line them up just to see what everybody thought. First, let me say hello to everybody in the chat. What's up, False Start in the house? What's going on? Francis Washington here. I see you. Hey, Uncle Steve and the Falcons family. Yes, yes. Todrick's in the house. What's going on, man? How you feeling today? Matt Town Dirty, what is up? Happy Monday to you. Hope everybody is doing well. David Stark, that's my bro. What's going on, man? How you doing today? And Dre is in the house. What's going on, Dre? Thank y'all for joining me today on the channel. Travis in the house. Travis, how you doing? Say you're about to stir the riot heights up for sure. Well, in this case, it might lay in their pockets, though, Travis, when you see that. That one Falcon fan, what is going on? Say, what's good, Kyle Pitts be getting way too much hate. Too many idiots are calling him a bust. Shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there shouldn't be any bust talk for him right now. I mean, he's only had, honestly, what, a season and a half? And the first season, he had a true passing quarterback with him. So he was able to show what he needed to do. Last year, we had somebody who basically thought he could throw the ball from his prone position down on the floor. So let's ease up on all of the bust on Kyle Pitts. That's just wasted. That's just wasted energy. If you hear somebody say that, brother, don't even pay him any attention. Matt Town said, sad to say, but out of desperation, I watch Falcon game simulations. It's like it's a real game. Okay? I'll take it one step further, Matt Town. I have the NFL Plus subscription thing, and you can watch it. If you don't have it, it's actually a very good if you're into watching games and especially replays of games like the Atlanta Falcons. And I go back, and I think it goes back to 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And I just go back and I just push on repeat. And I think I've watched that NFC Championship game with Green Bay so many times, I could probably tell you every play of that game because I just got into it that much. Now, Super Bowl is a different story. I've watched the Super Bowl the one time live. I watched this about 6 months later. I watched it up to Robert Alford's interception, and I haven't been able to watch anything since. Nothing. So trust me, these are those times that you really kind of trying to find something else, something to keep your time up. Baseball is going, but they're only halfway there. And this week they're the All-Star break. No basketball. If you call summer league, okay, knock yourself out. I'm not a big MLS guy. Love when the United do their thing, but not really that big time. I like tennis, but not enough to sit here and try to lie to you and say I'm going to watch every match, or I could tell you who the favorites are. I know Coco Golf because she's local. But other than that, all my favorites are gone. The Pete Sampras's and the Andre Agassi's and Roger Federer's, all those have already passed. So this is a dead time. So, yeah, find whatever you can find football-wise to keep you occupied. Big John Higgins in the house. What's up, brother? Everything going all right? I hope everything is well with you. T. Terry in the house. What's going on, sir? Good to see you. Thank you for joining me on here. I appreciate you joining me in Uncle Steve's Lounge. If y'all don't mind, please push that like button if you get an opportunity. I appreciate y'all doing that. That'll get this thing pumping and out there for a lot of Atlanta Falcon fans to check out. Brother Ray Ellison is in the house. What's going on, my brother? Good to see you in here. That's one of the guys I was talking about yesterday. They helped us carry on that very entertaining, long stream we had yesterday. But again, it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, man. T-Terry said, Fort Lewis all day, brother. I hear you, man. Matter of fact, it's funny. I was talking to one of my buddies from Fort Lewis about 3 months ago, man. Hadn't heard from him in a good while. So, yeah, man, Fort Lewis memory is always going to be there. Matt Town Dirty said, I'm glad I'm not alone. Absolutely not. Terrence Jones in the house. What's going on? What's going on? Keep up the great work. Love shows. Oh man, I appreciate that. Look, I have a different perspective on things a lot of times. I know a lot of people like to go to places, and trust me, y'all, I'm a huge Atlanta Falcons fan, but I'm also somebody that might not be the person that if you want to hear that every single person on the 53 man roster is an all pro. I'm not that guy. I'm probably the guy more likely to call them out as opposed to letting you know that they don't stink. I love my Falcons and I want everything in my power for them to win a championship. But I'm also gonna kind of keep it, real for you here as well. 330 says, "What's up, man?" Says, thanks for filling in this dead time with your interesting lives, man. I appreciate it, man. Listen, if it's something different, that's what I'm trying to do, man. I even throw little tidbits of entertainment in just to get y'all pumped up, man. I love doing this, and I love hearing that you all like the content. I appreciate it, and thank y'all. I appreciate it. Big Ghost Peppers in the house. What's going on, brother? It's a very interesting topic for discussion. Nice, and I'm going to get to that. And thank you, Armani. Appreciate you joining us yesterday, brother. So let's get to today's topic. Again, do stats lie? And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring that up again, somebody brought up to me that because someone might be the best passer and as far as having the most yards, that makes them the best quarterback. And I don't necessarily agree with that. And what I did was I went down the line with pretty much the basic positions. I'm not going to sit here and try to go through offensive guard efficiencies over the last 50 years with the Atlanta Falcons team. That would be probably futile, and I leave that to the super experts on that. But I do have the numbers of the guys who have worn the uniform and played for us. So I'm going to start at the obvious place, which is quarterback. Now, as far as quarterback is concerned, and I know this is probably going to surprise a couple of people, but the three top quarterbacks as far as yards are concerned, and that's where I'm going to start with, and be honest with you, yards and touchdowns. So yards and touchdowns, the top three quarterbacks in Atlanta Falcons history are Matt Ryan, Steve Bartkowski, or Chris Miller. So what I want to know, and we're going to do this one by one, and we'll stay on here for a couple of seconds and give y'all a chance to answer. So out of those three, are one of those three your favorite, or not even your favorite? In your opinion, is one of those three the best in franchise history? Or if you have somebody else, obviously you got a couple other people that's not on that top three that you can add. I don't think this one is hard to figure out. And it's not even because of longevity. I mean, let's not even try to. Matt Ryan has twice as many yards as the second place person in Steve Bartkowski. Actually, Matt Ryan has more yards than the next four: Bartkowski, Miller, Chandler, and Vic combined. So when you start thinking about that, that's going to be kind of tough. And his record, he is the only, well, I'll take that back. He is one of only three quarterbacks in franchise history with over 20 games. He is one of only three quarterbacks to have a career winning record. So he is 120, 102, 120 wins, 102 losses. Chris Chandler had 34 wins and 33 losses, of course, piggybacking off of that 14-2 season. And then Michael Vick, who has won 38 games against 28 games. So what do y'all think as far as the quarterback concerned? Where are we thinking as far as best quarterback in history, best quarterback between those three? And if you got another one, let me know. Armani says, I won't say stats lie, but stats can be very deceiving without adding context. And I think that was the part, Armani, when I saw the response yesterday after the live, the response was, yeah, stats will tell you who the best is. And I was like, I don't know. Slow that down a little bit. I'm not sure that's 100% true. JJ, what's going on, man? Says stats can definitely be misleading. Very much so. I think so. What's going on, Wallace? How you doing, man? Thank you for joining us again, man. I know you were in the house with us yesterday. Appreciate you joining us. I promise y'all this is going to be much shorter than we did yesterday, but I felt pushed to bring this out because I saw that comment and I was like, "Ooh, that's weird." David says statistics are a numerical measure of performance. It doesn't measure heart, which is the main ingredient in clutch situations. Much as I love Matt, he was not clutch later on in his career with us. And that's absolutely true. And that's why I put 3 up there instead of just saying who was the one statistical leader, because there are still people, and I don't begrudge anyone their own opinion. There are people that still don't think Matt Ryan was the best quarterback in franchise history. Matter of fact, I'll almost say this. Until Matt actually got to that 2016 season, the magical season where he was the MVP, I still held the flame for Steve Balkowski. I still did. And I, but he did have those years. And the winning as a quarterback, you have to bring that into consideration. That all the intangibles there, what are you judged on? Wins and losses. And while 120 over 102 is not the greatest winning percentage in the world, it is better than the other 15, 20 quarterbacks I see on here with losing records. So Wallace says, yes, Matt Ryan is the best quarterback for our franchise. Again, I don't think that's a big reveal. David says Matt Ryan is the best quarterback in this franchise history. I agree. John Harrison, and again, we thank John for coming in yesterday with that marathon. John says stats don't lie. However, depending on the picture that's about to be painted with those stats, they can color the picture all kinds of wrong. This is true. This is true. There are a lot of people, perfect example, and I know I'm skipping over sports. And as John knows, the advent of this triple-double, as far as that being this huge thing where we put out there and say, oh, man, he got a triple-double. He's great. Russell Westbrook went through the year. We had 40, 50 triple-doubles, and we had him as one of the great all times. But as we see, sometimes that could just be the situation they're in. And that particular situation in basketball, Russell Westbrook was all they had. So if he's all they have, then you expect him to get a lot of points, expect him to get a lot of rebounds, and obviously he's going to assist the ball. So that's one of those cases where you kind of look back and say, I don't know. That could kind of weigh out. Drew is in the house. What's going on? Says stats don't lie. Any quarterback that ever had Matt Ryan stats that had above average defense has a ring. Okay. So again, you're adding context to it. So I hear what you're saying. And it is true. There's only 7 people, I think 6 or 7 people above him. And with the exception, I think, of Dan Marino, I think Dan Marino may be the only person that doesn't have a ring that's ahead of him in numbers. I think so. I could be wrong. Did he pass? I'm trying to see, did he pass Phillip Rivers? Maybe Phillip Rivers still could be there. So John Harris says, context in the past, running the ball set up the pass. Only 2 teams, if I'm not mistaken, featured passing during Bart's time, and that was Miami and San Diego. Marino and Fouts must-see TV, and you're right on both of those occasions. I would probably put a little asterisk as well for Minnesota. As much as Fran Tarkenton ran around, especially in his early career, by the time he got to the 70s, he was throwing that ball around quite a bit with the receivers he had there. And I think Fran Tarkenton was one of the first ones after Joe Namath, I think, to get 4,000 yards in the season, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'll double check that before I make that law. But yeah. Drew said, yeah, Dan Marino, the only other one. And I thought that was true. So again, that's not really that hard of a call on quarterback. So here's one that's kind of interesting to me, and I love having people like John Harris in the chat and Big John and David in here, because I know these are longtime fans and I know they can kind of go back a little bit. As far as running back in the Atlanta Falcon franchise history, the top 3 running backs in our history are Gerald Riggs, Michael the Burner Turner, and William Andrews. Now, stats will tell you Gerald Riggs was the best runner the Atlanta Falcons ever had. I disagree. This is one of the first ones that's kind of making my point. I as much as I think we did a lot to feature Gerald Riggs as that guy, and back then we didn't have the backfield with the 2 or 3 rotating backs and things like that. You gave it to somebody and he ran and kept running. But Gerald Riggs is still, right now, our franchise leader in yards. But I disagree to say Gerald Riggs is better, in my opinion, that he was a better runner for the Falcons than Michael Turner or William Andrews. My personal choice is William Andrews. I thought William Andrews, prior to his knee, and he even came back. I keep acting like his knee injury ended his career, but he never ran the same after that. But I'll say easily William Andrews was the best running back in this franchise's history. If you saw what he could do, he could block. And the only thing they didn't do with him, they didn't throw a lot of passes out to him. He did have one where they swung one screen pass to him and he took it 70 yards. Go back and look at the old highlights on YouTube. You'll see them. But this is one case that I think the numbers do lie a little bit. And I'm not saying Gerald Riggs wasn't all that. Obviously, he went on to the, at that time, Redskins, and I believe won the Super Bowl that year against our Too Legit to Quit team. Well, not the Super Bowl, but that was the year they ran up and beat the snot out of the Raiders that year in the Super Bowl. See what the chat's saying as far as running back is concerned. Ghost Peppers comes in and says there are a good number of yardage stats that you can look at to determine point scoring chances, but the biggest to consider are off yards per carry, off yards per attempt, offensive starting positions. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's true. This is true. 330 says William Andrews was a true fullback. Absolutely, he was. He was a fullback, but, and remember, for those of you who want to even go back further, he was in the wishbone in Auburn blocking for Chuck Muncie and what's my boy name from Cincinnati? Brooks at the time. So yes, he was a fullback, but fullbacks don't run for 5,986 yards. So he did not. He definitely took his running skills to the Atlanta Falcons, and they had him as a lead back in our offense at that time. Smart Ride in the house. What's going on, man? Say great show as usual, but I'm about to make some folks mad. Matt Ryan is the stat gobbler. Phillip Rivers and Vinny Testaverde. That's his group. Listen, I can't, what am I going, I can't even argue with it. if you look at things, folks, Matt Ryan played 14 years for us and missed 3 games. When you do that, you're going to put up a lot of yards. I think a lot of people made a lot about the, what is it, 8 years in a row, 4,000 yards and all that. And that's great for your nomination into the Hall of Fame. But when it doesn't have significant wins, Matt Ryan in the playoffs, and this is not a crap on Matt Ryan show, so don't think that's where I'm going, because I love Matt. Matt did a lot for us. But if we really look at it, Matt Ryan had 2 signature wins in the playoffs. And I'm not even going to go the Seattle game in 2012, when you had like 20 seconds and you went down the field. I give him credit on that, even though the defense kind of blew the lead. And the Green Bay game, where he could do no wrong. Other than those 2 games, I there's going to be a lot to be demanded on the resume for a Hall of Fame nomination for Matt Ryan. He'll get nominated, but for him to get in, it's going to be tough. Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor, you could put him up tomorrow if you wanted to. And you're not going to have one person that could have a legitimate debate on why not. But it's going to be hard. Drew pointed it out. It's going to be tough. Terrence says Michael Turner was a different type of running back, especially one of my favorites. He put fear in a lot of linebackers. Some of them even talk about today how they hated tackling him. Michael Turner was a beast. And Matt Ryan owes that first part of his career to how great Michael Turner was those first few years for us. Michael Turner held it down. If you didn't have that type of runner on those initial seasons of Matt Ryan, you don't have the success between 2008 and 2012. You really don't. He was that running back. And we missed, when he left, we got 2 seasons with Devonta and Tevin. And I say 2 seasons, 17, I think everybody was kind of struggling offensively 17. I'm not ready to run the running backs up there for that year. But Michael Turner was truly somebody who deserves to be put up as far as the best runner in Falcons history. Atlanta supporter, what's going on? Say, Uncle Steve, will you have an album coming out if the Falcons go to the playoffs? Hey, I'm gonna have something. I got something that I think I'm gonna do after each game. That should be kind of fun. So if you get a chance after the games, I think what my plan is, obviously I'll have pop-ins during the game. I usually come in at halftime, but I usually come on at 7:00 after the game, kind of give everybody the time to breathe and after what happened, and then get your thoughts together for 7:00. But that's going to be usually my schedule on game day. Game day, 7:00. And that doesn't include the pop-ins at the stadium and stuff like that. But yeah, I hope to have something with you. David says, I'm with you on Andrews. Riggs was great, but I would have taken a pre-240-pound Michael Turner over him. Way faster, way stronger. He even would have eclipsed Andrews, in my view, if he stays about 225. He did get a little chunky at the end. He did get a little chunky at the end. That's true. 330 says Stat Ryan is the name I gave him. I think a lot of people join you in that group. Dondre says Matt's yards came from Roddy White and Julio Jones. That's true. This is true. Big John says Matt Ryan quarterback, Gerald Riggs running back, hands down. See, I agree with that. I disagree with the hands down on Gerald Riggs. Gerald Riggs was nice. And John, you remember seeing Big Andrews. Who would you rather have running that ball, running that rock? Andrews or Riggs? Riggs didn't have that speed Andrews had when he got out in the open field. So I don't know. I disagree with you on that one, but that's your opinion. I feel you. James, what's going on, man? Say William Andrews was a beast. Also, James Brooks was one too. Played against him at Warner Robins High. Oh, brother. I don't try to tell you, man. So again, so you already know. All them James went to Auburn with Chuck Muncie. And that trio alone, think about that trio. James Brooks, Chuck Muncie, and William Andrews as fullback. I mean, you got to show me a better, combination back there than that. Wallace says Matt Ryan will get in the Hall of Fame, but he won't be first ballot. Wallace, I've gone over that, and I'm sure we're going to have shows about that in the future. If you ask me right now, Wallace, I would wait first to see what happens with Phillip Rivers. If they let Phillip Rivers in, it's no way you can leave Matt Ryan out. Phillip Rivers has never won an MVP. Phillip Rivers has never been to the Super Bowl. You can't put Phillip Rivers in and not put Matt Ryan in. I think it's going to be because Phillip Rivers is a popular cat. But if you put him in, there's no way you can leave Matt Ryan out. No way. His accolades are much higher, in my opinion, than Phillip Rivers' golly gee whiz persona that he has on. And Phillip Rivers was nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say he wasn't. But that's going to be my litmus test, Wallace. Travis says, not dissing, Matt, but you have to consider the era we're in. 4,000 yards is common now. It comes down to the playoffs, and unfortunately, that Super Bowl is going to haunt him forever. Travis, I'm right with you. Yeah, the yards today, and I'm trying to think, was that John Harris, or it might have been Bigelow with us yesterday, that brought up the fact that, and I think it was Bigelow, that said they didn't throw the ball back then unless the teams that John was talking about, Miami with Marino, and then Air Coryell with San Diego Chargers at that time. They weren't throwing the ball up there like that. I'll tell you who else threw the ball around a little bit before they started that. When Warren Moon came down to Houston, and they had the little offense down there. And I think, if memory serves me correct, was that when June Jones first started coaching offenses? I could be wrong. But yeah, I definitely think passing yards in 2023 are in a different place than they were in the 80s and early 90s. They're in a different place. Ghost Pepper says the key NFL stats that matter the most: yardage, defensive points allowed per 100 yards, turnover margin, time of possession. All of those are very important. That time of possession is one of the reasons why we stayed in a lot of games. We were able to run that ball and eat that clock up. That was one of the things we were able to do. Lisa, how you doing today? Good to see you in the house. Appreciate you stopping by, as always. Atlanta supporter says, Uncle Steve, how do you feel about week 1 Falcons versus Panthers? Barring anybody getting hurt and barring any roster changes that may happen, I think it's going to be a sad day for Bryce Young in his first go at it. I think this defense is going to be eager to prove that the changes they've made personnel-wise and coaching-wise are going to make a difference. There's nothing that doesn't – I can't see anything less than a 10-point win at this second right now. Unless you put some stilettos on Bryce Young or something like that, I just don't see it. Lisa said, did you hear Grady Jarrett on Sirius today? He was talking about Ritter. He was also on Good Morning Football, Lisa, on the NFL Network. And he was talking glowingly about him and Ryan Leaf. They had a nice little section where Ryan Leaf was showing the maturation of Ritter on a couple of plays where he didn't throw an interception when he could have and waited for the play and stuff like that. So while I didn't see that, I could tell Grady was kind of going around. Last week when they had Grady on there he was on like via satellite, and they invited him to the show. And I said to myself, "Oh, that would be cool if he went." I mean, that show was maybe about a week and a half ago, so he made his way up there. Atlanta supporter says, "Uncle Steve, do you think we should bring back Deion Jones? If he comes at a minimum, maybe. But the only thing I think about that is, man, he just left, and Atlanta kind of messed his they kind of messed his money up a little bit. I don't know if I would come back to a team less than 12 months after you just shipped me out saying that I wasn't any good for you. I don't know if I would do that. If I was near the end of my career, maybe. But the fact that he's not on a team right now, I don't know. If you ask me right now, I got to say no. I think and the same thing somebody was talking about Sanu yesterday when we were doing the chat. If we want to turn the page from what was then, we can't keep going back trying to get feel-good pieces. And the only true resume of those, they played on that Super Bowl team, but with each season, that Super Bowl gets further and further away. Deion was a rookie back then. Sanu was over the other side of prime now. Sanu was in his mid-30s, late 30s. He might be older than Julio. I don't know. But I think we got to stop trying to go back and get relics. And let's let these guys cook with what they have now. New coaches, new quarterback, new receivers. Let's cook with what we got. Ghost Pupper says, "Can't forget in 2017 we led the league. I'm sorry, in drop passes a good chunk of that season. For some odd reason, people tend to forget about that. You know what that was, Ghost Peppers? And I know people are gonna laugh when I say this. I think we let go of Steve Sarkisian too early. Before y'all start laughing and throwing something at the computer, keep this in mind. The year after 2017, I think it was a shock to the system that Kyle Shanahan left. I think a lot of people thought he was going to stay. We were so close. Let's come back and run it back. But Kyle did the right thing. He got a chance to do his own thing. So nothing but love for him. Do what he got to do. Steve Sarkisian came into an unfair situation. They tried to do the same offense with somebody totally new running the show. And Steve Sarkisian wasn't ready at that time. However, the next year, the Atlanta Falcons had one of the top offenses that year. Matt Ryan had his second best statistical year of his career in 2018. And then, of course, Steve Sarkisian went to Alabama, right? After that. So I just think that was, 2017 was a wonky year. I think if we had any kind of offense, folks, I think we would have went back, and I think we could have beat the Patriots that year. The defense, for some reason, was clicking that year. So, yeah. Lisa said, did you like it? Oh, she was talking to Atlanta supporter. He spoke positive about Ritter, while so many fans are pessimistic. I get that Grady would not speak badly of Ritter publicly, but I like what he had to say. Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to get a player, Lisa, that's going to go on and submarine somebody on national TV. You better hope that your quarterback is doing good. You better support him because he's going to be a very vital part of your success. Not the only part, but a vital part. And Grady's a smart guy. I think that just shows that Grady's smart. Out of your Falcon mind in the house, what's going on? Glad to catch you. Y'all catch out of your Falcon mind. Make sure y'all catch them. Oh, Jesus. But Wednesday? See, y'all, you know why? Because I'm at work when you guys notification come in. Y'all remind me when they come in, y'all. And I apologize for forgetting. But I know it's either Wednesday or Thursday. And I know y'all always putting it down. So we'll do our thing, man. John and Mike always have some good content for us. Lisa says, I want our defense to feast week 1. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Put Bryce Young on notice, man. Let them know that this ain't the SEC, as great as they are college-wise. No. You're gonna run into some problems. And let them know. Kenneth Lewis in the house. What's going on, man? Good to see you in here. Appreciate you joining me today. Raymond in the house. What's up, brother? So I like the laid-back perspective that's going on with us. Just got to win and prove it. And some fans don't want to hear prove it. But we've got to prove it. If you're in school, well, maybe that's not a good thing. You've got to get people to like you. You've got to get people to notice you. And what gets noticed? Success. People notice success. The Denver Nuggets, there wasn't a soul talking about the Denver Nuggets and their chances to win the NBA title last year. But as each playoff series got closer, Siri trying to talk. As each playoff series got closer, the national narrative on the Denver Nuggets started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point of by the time we got to the finals, Denver was a clear favorite. And you say to yourself, well, dang, what was the difference between the earlier that year when you had Denver? They showed it. They had Golden State, Lakers, who didn't deserve to be there, Lakers, Minnesota, Grizzlies, Phoenix. They had like 7 teams over Denver to win the NBA championship. And then all of a sudden, it takes consistent winning to get people on board. That's what you got to do. That's what folks have to do. Big John says, stats speak for yourself. Yeah, I see William Andrews run with Riggs. They put all 11 players in the box. We had no passing game. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, our passing game was slack. I agree with that. Wallace says, I agree with you with that. And Quinn let him go too soon. Yeah, I think they should have stuck. He should have stuck around at least one more year. I think we would have reaped the benefits of that. David says the same thing. You're right, Steve. I felt Quinn threw him under the bus for some of his horrible decisions. Yes, he did. Big John says stats speak for themselves. Atlanta supporter said, Uncle Steve, what should Arthur Smith do if he wants to keep his job? Win. Simple. It's not even that complicated. Win. Gotta win, man. Gotta win. Travis says, our biggest mistake after the Super Bowl season was letting Matt LaFleur leave for Tennessee to be their OC. Now, we can say that in hindsight. I think that's one of those cases, Travis. I kind of have to call you to the carpet on that one, because nobody's looking at the quarterback coach. I mean, even if Shanahan would have left, even when Shanahan left, there was not a soul talking about Matt LaFleur staying. Nobody, not one soul. In hindsight, you can say it, but nobody. I didn't hear anybody talking about Matt LaFleur. Let's keep it real, y'all. Let's keep it honest. And it would have been nice to jump into the Back to the Future DeLorean and go back and say, oh, dang, let's keep him around. But I didn't hear that, at least. Yeah, out of Falcon Mind, man, and I apologize, y'all. Wednesday at 7:30. All good, brother. We got to schedule one where you're off so we can have you on. Man, I got to adjust to you guys, and I appreciate that. So y'all make sure 7:30 Wednesday nights. And again, that's why I say I know it's in the evening, because I listen to them, and I'll even throw myself in the chat, let them know that I'm there. But I'm always checking them out. They have good guests, and I don't know, man. I just tune in a lot to hear Mike talk and to hear to hear John talk and to hear Mike say something that's out of this world. So gotta love both of them, man. Y'all make sure y'all give them some love. MW franchise player, what's going on? Say, I'm preaching right now. I'm just calling it like I see it, folks. I hope I and don't feel like if you're here and you're saying I'm one perspective, I love to hear other perspectives, even if I disagree with them. So y'all keep it coming, man. Keep it coming. And we got to get back to the wide receiver. We haven't even got there yet. Wallace says, that was another problem. Every time Matt got the playbook down, we would change the OCs. You're absolutely right. Every 2 years from 2014 to 2021. That is fair, but that he did have to go through a lot of change. You're right. You're absolutely right. Kenneth says our run game and play action is going to be a monster. Listen, if he can succeed in the play action, Kenneth, if he can succeed with that, it should be a very productive year for him. Because if Bijan can do the things he can out of the backfield, and even with the threat, I mean, you're going to have plays where Bijan and Tyler are going to share the field, which doesn't happen a whole lot these days in NFL backfields. As much as I love Keith Smith at the fullback position, but yeah, you get weapons out there, man. You got to use them. Big Rusty says, ultimately, quarterbacks get judged off of rings. Julio catches flack for no TDs, and Grady gets no love because he doesn't have sack numbers. That ring in 2016, and nobody is talking about stats. Rusty, every time I hear somebody say this, it's like a sad feeling comes over me because and I'm not trying to revisit every single play that happened up to that, but I'm just getting on your point. We were a first down away from all of the narrative that we have now to not be with us. Am I saying that the fan base would have stood for 5 straight losing seasons? No. But that Super Bowl would have gave us some equity. How many years? Depends on the fan. Sometimes it'll give you about 2 years, maybe 3, especially winning it. Even with the Falcons going to the Super Bowl, it gave you at least 1 year equity. If we had won the Super Bowl, as Rusty's talking about, man. Atlanta supporter says, Uncle Steve, who do you think will be on our 53-man roster? Ooh-wee. I tell you what, I'm gonna have a show later on after the preseason where we talk about that last cut day before they when they announce the rosters. There are so many folks right now supporting. I wish I could kind of go all the way up and down the line. Give me a couple of weeks to work on that one. And when we get into preseason, then I can be a little bit more specific with you. Let me go back to the wide receivers, y'all, because we were talking. So getting back to the topic today was, do stats lie when it comes to our franchise favorites? Now, I gave you the quarterback franchise leaders. I gave you the running back franchise leader. This is one that people have been talking about a lot. And my buddy Samuel Armour from the Atlanta Bird Gang, who's big time fan, and it just thinks different than other people. I'll give you this list and I'll tell you who he thought was the best. So statistically, Julio, Roddy, and Terrence Mathis are the 3 top wide receivers statistically in franchise history. I find it hard to argue with that 3 if I didn't have my young boy fandom and didn't see Alfred Jenkins play back in the day. Big HBCU grad from Morris Brown. And Alfred Jenkins was a beast. Alfred is number 4 all time in receiving yards. But as much as I love Terrence, and Terrence is the man, Alfred Jenkins was a bad boy. And in a time where people didn't throw the ball. You have to remember, during the time that Alfred Jenkins Big Jim Mitchell, Alfred Jackson, Wallace Francis. Folks weren't running the ball. I mean, weren't passing the ball. I'm sorry. They weren't passing the ball like that. Only when Bartkowski got there did they start opening up the passing game. So a lot of these numbers that we're getting from the receivers were beneficiaries of Matt Ryan, except for Terrence Mathis. But most of the other guys were, beneficiaries of the opened up offenses. So I don't think this is hard to figure out who the best wide receiver is. Whether you like Julio as a person or not, that dude was something else. I know a lot of people have a lot of love for Roddy White, because he never played anywhere else and he kept it real. But I would love to add Alfred Jenkins to that list. And even as much as I love Roddy, man, I'd put Alfred Jenkins number 2 on my list if I had an opportunity. But those are the 3. What do y'all think? Who are y'all line up? Who's the best and who should be in that top 3? Matter of fact, my guy Samuel Armour, he said Andre Rison is the best. Julio included, Roddy included. He said Andre Rison is the best wide receiver in Atlanta Falcons franchise history. I disagree, but that's who he said. So who do y'all think as far as that's concerned? David says, I'll take it a step further. We finished the drill February 5th, 2017. I think we go back to back. Let me tell you something. I like our chances more had we gotten that touchdown against Philly than I did the Super Bowl run. As much as we ran through everybody then, we were so much more balanced in 2017. And I say balanced only because I think the offense came down a notch, but the defense, and I go back to that. I go back to like everybody talked about the Super Bowl play. That little carom off of Keanu Neal at the end of the half, in the first half. For some reason, that always just hits with me, man. Always. Lisa says, so sad we didn't close out Super Bowl 51 out. Nevertheless, it's still Go Falcons, ready for the 2023 season. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, what's going on, Larry? How you doing, brother? Said, Steve, did you see Big Grady on NFL Network this morning? I did, my friend. And I was talking about probably before you came on here, but I checked him out and saw what he was talking about, Ritter, and a lot of other stuff. He was on there on an interview about a week and a half ago. They invited him in. So obviously he came in today. Lisa informed me that he was also on Sirius XM, which makes sense because their NFL Network studios are all in that same place. So he probably just made the rounds all the way in. And before I go forward, y'all make sure y'all check my brother Larry out on the Dixon Way live reaction videos from Atlanta sports, especially those red hot Braves. Yeah, I know they lost yesterday, but when you lose 2 games out of 16 and 17, kind of hard to give you a hard time. But yeah, so y'all make sure y'all check out Larry on those games. Atlanta supporters say, I got a question up for Steve. Why did Julio Jones leave Atlanta? I think Julio Jones probably just felt like he may have been disrespected. We'll never know. There was something in the water with him and Arthur Blank. If you remember the chronology of the situation, remember the first year he had asked for some money, or he was going to hold out. They gave him like $2 million, told him they were going to work on his contract. And next year they work on the contract. And then he didn't hold out. He waited to the last minute and made him the highest paid wide receiver of all time. And then 1 year into his contract, he felt disrespected. I don't know. I don't know what the inside. There's got to be some more stuff in there, but hey. Lisa said, didn't Sark call 3 consecutive plays to Julio in that playoff game versus Philly? Yes. But here's kind of, I'm not mad at that in a certain way. You want your best player involved in that play. I guess in some ways you could have hoped to maybe draw a pass interference or something. Maybe that was the thought, but I'm not mad at if you threw it 3 times to Julio. That's your best guy. That's your best guy. I know it might be predictable, but that's your best guy. David says Julio is the best. Roddy, Jenkins, Rison, Mathis finishes out my list in that order. That's not a bad list. And Rison was a little underrated. Rison was a bad boy when he was here. Lisa says it was reported that Julio requested a trade previously, but Blank talked them out of it for a price. I believe that. And at that time, I think if we're probably honest, and I would bet if Arthur Blank could talk, to us openly, I think Blank was hurt with some of that stuff because he went out of his way to line Julio's pockets the year before the contract, the big contract, then made him the biggest wide receiver, gave him the biggest contract in wide receiver history. And then just to, the little Shannon Sharp comment when he acted like he was out of here, I just thought that was, I didn't think Julio was being very professional then, in my opinion. Raymond says Julio, no doubt. David says, not Falcon related, but I wanted Snick to sit everyone after the 5th inning. I absolutely did not care about that game. I was kind of surprised that they let Elder pitch. I was thinking, yeah, dude, if it's going to be a bullpen game, and to your point, David, yeah, I know at the end of the year, every game matters. We only won the division by a couple of games last year when it was all said and done. But yeah, I think I would have thrown that bullpen game and gave my starters a rest yesterday, especially the way they've been playing for the last 2 weeks. I almost hate that the All-Star break came because, boy, the way they were playing and the way these guys are hitting, you almost don't want to stop that momentum. Atlanta supporter says, Uncle Steve, what do you think the Falcons should do to make it to the playoffs? I mean, I think the things they're doing right now, improve the defense, have efficient play from your quarterback position, and run and do what they did last year, run the ball. I think if you do those things there, I think it's no doubt we're going to have a successful season. No doubt at all. Let me go very quickly to the tight ends real quick. The 3 best tight ends in Atlanta Falcons history: Big Jim Mitchell, Algie Crumpler, and Tony Gonzalez. Now, I got a chance to see Jim Mitchell because my first games was like in 75 as a little tyke, 75 or 76, one or two. Jim was a big boy, man, and he was a beast. And he had his more peak years a couple of years before, but man, he was the man. I know in today's age, the Tony Gonzalez's and the Algie Crumplers get a lot more love because you were throwing the ball to them a whole lot. But boy, I wish a lot of y'all would have got a chance to see Jim Mitchell. He was the truth. He was absolutely the truth when he was with the Falcons. We don't see people like Junior Miller on this list who had a couple of good years. Say what you want about Austin Hooper, but the Super Bowl year, he showed up and did some pretty good things as well. So I don't want to diss him in this conversation of tight ends. But those are the three tight ends as far as statistics are concerned. Raymond says nobody thinks about it, but remember, Alex Mack played with a broken ankle in the Super Bowl. I really think our lack of running game was centered on that. No pun intended, I'm sure, with the center. Yeah, and remember, he didn't tell anybody, but I think he broke his ankle. I mean, he broke his ankle during that Green Bay game when he had to come out. He was on the field and they got him out. And I don't know what they shot him up with, but whatever they shot him up with that day, that probably got him through that. But yeah, I forgot about that. Raymond said all three were monsters. Absolutely. I think that's a pretty good list on there. Ghost Pepper says Julio Jones, Andre Rison, Roddy White, Alfred Jenkins, Terrence Mathis. And it's kind of interesting. All five of those guys end up being on that list too. I think you're not going to go wrong with any of those guys on there. Larry says, don't forget OJ Santiago. OJ Santiago's who had a decent year during the Super Bowl run in 1998. He'll always just be forever known as the author of the well, I say the author, but the initial Dirty Bird. He had the first sighting of the Dirty Bird until Jamal kind of cleaned it up and made it look clean. But that's his biggest contribution. Santiago was okay. David says definitely Algie is the best in Falcons history. I will consider Gonzo a chief. Mitchell is a close second. Yeah, I it's kind of hard not to put Algie up there, and Lord knows when you're the leading receiver on a football team back when Mike Vick was around. I mean, he was that security blanket. He was the Greg Olsen to Cam Newton. He was the Travis Kelce to Patrick Mahomes. That's what Algie was to Mike Vick. And Lord knows we wish Mike would have been able to stick around and do some things with Algie. But Algie was a very, very, competent player back then. I'm trying to think, did he make one Pro Bowl? I don't know if he did or not. Maybe he didn't. But he was actually pretty good that year. Going to the last one that I had on here was from the defensive side. And it was kind of interesting from the sack standpoint. And remember that before 1982, only a few teams were keeping sack records. There are people that say Deacon Jones, if you added his numbers to the thing, he had over 200 sacks. I kind of believe it if you go back and look at a lot of the film. Deacon Jones, man, he was, whoa, that was a bad boy right there. So I don't know. That could be true. But Claude, John Abraham, John Zook. And John Zook had some pretty good numbers his first couple of years in the Falcons. A little too early for me. But according to them, he was the third highest sack leader. Chuck Smith is on that list. I would have to say, of course, in my time, Claude was a beast when I was young. Claude was just that guy. As much as I love Abe too, Abe was right there with him, but Claude Humphrey was an intimidating dude. I was so mad when he went to Philadelphia and played with them after he left us. But yeah, Claude Humphrey was man, if y'all didn't get a chance to see him play, not the highlights, man. He was just a big dude, man. So I like Claude by a hair over John Abraham. Larry says wide receivers Julio, Roddy, Rison, Mathis, Billy White shoes. I don't know about Billy White shoes on the receiver side. I think, and don't get me wrong, I know he had a year or two where he came in and he was a predominant wide receiver, especially the one year, that last year that the Falcons, the little strike year that we made the Super Bowl, not Super Bowl scratch, then we made the playoffs. He had a big year that year, but not top 5 in franchise history. You have Billy White shoes, and you have no Alfred Jenkins, you have no Michael Haynes, no Wallace Francis. Shoot, I'd probably take Drake London over Billy White shoes, but that's all good. Vincent Nelms, what's going on? Said, how about Tim Dwight and Brian Finneran? Tim Dwight kind of went into that Billy White shoes kind of frame. I mean, he was a punt returner that went out there and caught a couple of passes. Tim Dwight wasn't bad, but I think he was a little scat back. I think he was in the frame of a Wes Welker type, Danny Amendola type of guy, but nah. Ghost Pepper says Tony Gonzalez, Algie Crumpler, Austin Hooper, Kyle Pitts, Junior Miller. Hey man, Junior Miller was a good blocker too. That people, he didn't get number again. They weren't throwing it like that back then. 3,000 yards was the high water mark back then. So Junior Miller played a good defense. I mean, a good blocking tight end back then. That's a good list right there. Ghost Peppers. David says Clyde Humphreys, John Abraham, Chuck Smith, and Patrick Kearney. And that's real weird because Patrick Kearney was not in the top. Let me see where Patrick Kearney is. Patrick Kearney is, as far as sacks is concerned, defense. And I'm sorry, I'm going off sacks. Patrick Kearney is number 5. So it's Claude Humphrey, John Abraham, John Zook, Chuck Smith, and Patrick Kearney. Actually, Chuck Smith has 1/2 sack more than Patrick Kearney. So that's pretty cool for that. Now, did we solve anything today? Probably not. But I just wanted to give a quick synopsis of how sometimes stats can be skewed. I think in a couple of cases, you saw the statistical leader being number 1. But for the most part, it's very subjective. And I don't know who it was talking earlier in the chat about adding context to the statistics as well. There are a lot of things you can learn. You can't just simply say he has more yards that made him a better quarterback. He had more sacks that made him a better pass rusher. There are some pass rushers now that don't have close to the yards. I'm sorry, don't have close to the sacks of the all-time leading Michael Strahan. But I'll take Derek Thomas over Michael Strahan any day of the week. And God bless him, because that cat was better. He's easily, in my opinion, top 5 all-time as far as sacks is concerned. That kind of guy. So you got to have some context when you come to that. Folks, it is over an hour. I meant to stay on just for an hour. I appreciate y'all joining me for the Monday Minutia. We try to do it every Monday, somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock. We did it at 6 today. Appreciate y'all joining me. Y'all have a blessed week. We will catch y'all on Friday for the Friday brunch in Uncle Steve's Lounge. Don't forget, before y'all leave, please hit the like button if you don't mind. And then tell a friend. Make sure y'all let them know that we are here in Uncle Steve's Lounge. Subscribe if you can. Don't forget, if y'all get a chance, go check out Smitty's Sports Machine and 95 North Sports Talk. They should be on at 8:30, and they're going to be talking more about some Falcon content today. We appreciate y'all joining us. Y'all be good, man. Peace. Be blessed.